Hi everyone, welcome back to another one of my videos. Today what I'm going to be doing is giving you another little plot tour. So I think the last plot tour that I did was probably about a month ago now, and it was looking not great. There was a lot that needed to be dug. It was just not looking great, let's put it that way. I've done a lot of work since then. I've been out as much as I can. Obviously we've had not great weather, but I've been out here as much as I can, digging and trying to get everything ready for planting. It's the 1st of April now, and I think I'm finally ready. And today what I'm going to do is get some potatoes and some onions in as well. So I think we're going to start with a quick plot tour, show you what I've been up to, and then we're going to move on to getting the potatoes and the onions in. Start the tour at the top of my allotment, which is the area where I haven't done quite so much work. So this whole area is still in need of some work before it's ready to plant on, but what I was focusing on originally was the bottom half of the plot where I need to get seeds sown and things in more quickly. I've got the pond here to my right, which I have now tidied up and given it a little bit of a clean. I found 3 little frogs in there the other day, which was fantastic. It was great to see them actually coming and visiting the allotment. I haven't got any frog spawn or anything like that, but I wasn't really expecting any because the pond is still a work in progress. I mean, it's got the liner and it's got the water and I've got a couple of plants, but there's still more that I want to do to it this year, obviously to edge it properly and get some more plants in. So just the fact that I had some frogs in there was enough for me. And then down here, just behind me to my left, I've got what is going to be my flower patch. I have given it a quick dig over. It needs another dig over. That was just the first dig. So it's still looking, still looking in need of another dig, let's put it that way. But that's this area. Right, so this is where my arch was. I've still got my pole, so I'm going to fix this at some point. That's on my list of jobs and things to do. But this is basically what I've got to divide my more social area with the pond and the flowers, and maybe table and chairs when I finally get round to getting some. It's dividing it from the bottom half of the allotment, which is purely where I'm growing the vegetables. And I quite like having the arch just walk through. I'm going to have sweet peas up it in the long run. They're growing at home now, growing quite nicely. And then you can walk through the archway and I shall show you what we've got going on down there at the minute. Right, so starting at the top of the allotment, as you can see I've dug it all over, I put it all back to mud, which is what I wanted to do. There was grass pathways, but I've taken that all away and I'm just starting this year with a complete clean slate. I've used this green string, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but I have mapped out the whole plot with this green twine. I wanted to get white string so I could see what I was doing easier, but Morrison's did not have any white string in stock. So I had to go with this green twine. But I divided it all up where I want the beds to be, where I want the paths to be. This bed here eventually is going to be used for my watermelon plants, so they're going to be growing inside of this. I've got the plastic cover for it somewhere, but I haven't put that on yet in case we get any windy weather or anything and it sort of blows it away. But that's this path. That's this bed. That's this bed, not this path. I'm looking over at the other side of the allotment now. It's all very much the same. I say just some beds that I've dug. This is going to be a little path here. I was talking about wood chipping my paths and bricking them in. I've had to think about that, and I'm actually thinking that after all that, I think I may go back to trying to have nice grass pathways. Because I thought with wood chip I was going to have to line the paths with the material, weed resistant material, before putting the wood chip down. And then I went to Wickes and realised just how expensive bricks actually are, so yeah, we sort of shelved that idea a little bit, and I'm just going to try and have really nice grass pathways. And I think if I keep the work on them up and keep them tended, I should be able to keep them as nice controlled grass pathways. I'm probably going to have some beans here, probably again some cucumbers and some peas in this one. That's the plan at the moment. And then walking down to the bottom, you can just about see my cloches there, but I'll take you up for a bit of a closer look. This here is one of the few beds that actually looks like anything's actually happening on it at the minute. But it is a bit of an illusion because although I've got tulips which are coming up really nicely in that planter there, that planter still needs weeding. That is just full of weeds and rubbish, so I need to sort that one out. And these cloche hoops and cloches here are purely there warming up the soil. I'm probably going to plant some spinach, and I may well do that today actually. But they're just warming up the soil at the minute, getting it ready for planting, trying to raise the temperature up a little. So that is pretty much where I am. Lots of soil and not a lot growing. But at least it's dug now, and I can see in my mind now where I want everything to go, which is good, because a few weeks ago I couldn't. I had no idea what was going on. The last thing to show you is the beds up here. As you can see, there is not a lot going on with them yet. I still need to weed them. But I've got a bit of time, and there should be an easy enough job. So that'll be my last task with those ones there. Similarly, flip you around. There is two beds here. The one in the front is the strawberry bed, which you saw me planting up in one of my previous videos. And the bed behind it, which you may not be able to even tell is a bed, but it is another one the same that needs weeding. So that's where the allotment is at the moment. So yeah, lots of lovely earth for me to cultivate and grow on. I'm pretty pleased with how it's gone actually. I know it doesn't look like there's a lot going on, but there will be. And I'm really pleased with how now I've got it all divided up, and I can hopefully get it exactly how I want to get it. So that's the quick plot tour for today, and now I think what we're going to do is I'll have a little bit of a tidy up, get a couple of bits ready, and then I'll turn the camera back on and we'll plant up some potatoes, because they really need to go in now, and then some onions, because they also really need to go in. Now I've got to be honest and say that this is not the nicest area of my plot. And I'm a little embarrassed that while tidying here, I managed to pull out that much rubbish. Old plastic plant pots, old bags of compost, just a load of rubbish basically that I should have taken to the tip last year, but obviously just thought it was easier to just chuck at the bottom of my plot, which is not good. It's not how I want to be. I don't want to be somebody that just piles all their rubbish up at the back. I know I've got this mound of earth, and I don't mean that, because that's earth that I've dug out and I want to get rid of, but just not sure how. Whereas the things like the plastic and the pots and everything I've brought up here myself, I don't want to get into the habit of just piling them all up here. So that's embarrassing and needs to go. The reason I have cleared this little area that looks like it's pretty much good for nothing is I'm going to be putting my potatoes here, because this year I'm going to be growing my potatoes in containers, or actually, to be more precise, just these little potato growing bags. And there's a couple of reasons that I'm going to be growing them in containers this year. It's not something I've done up at the allotment before. In the past I've always had them in the ground. I just like having them in the ground. I do prefer having them in the ground. There's a couple of reasons why I'm not this year. The first is space. They take up an awful lot of space on my allotment, and this year there's so much that I want to grow. I couldn't fit everything in without sacrificing something, and that sacrifice came in the form of losing one of the beds where I would have grown the potatoes and doing them just in some little containers instead. So I'll be kind of interested to see how they work. I'm not expecting them to be as good as they were in the ground, but I'll find out. And the second reason is that last year I told everybody that my potato harvest was rubbish. I was like, nothing grew, they didn't work, it was rubbish. And then this year, when I started digging where the potato bed was, I realised that actually perhaps it wasn't my harvest that was so rubbish, perhaps it was more my eyesight and my digging ability. Because when I dug over, the amount of potatoes I was digging up while I was digging that plot over a few weeks ago was unreal. And And there was a few that we could use, and we did use a few of them, it was great, but a lot of them had gone rotten or they had slug damage, and it was just a waste, and it was a real shame. So this year I'm going to be giving them a go in containers. Right, so I've got these opened up now. I wasn't sure what to expect. Basically, it's just fairly sturdy, I would say. It feels pretty sturdy. Just a square bag, essentially. But yeah, it feels pretty sturdy. So you've got the drainage holes there and there. And I've got 2 of them. I meant to buy 4, but I bought 2, so I'm going to get another couple, or I might grow them in buckets or something else. But for today, just so I can get something in and get some potatoes started, I'm going to use just these 2. The potatoes that I'm growing are Maris Piper and Red Duke of York. The Red Duke of York is a first early, Maris Piper is a second early. It's the 1st of April, I'm going to put them both in now. I could have got the first earlies in a week or 2 ago, but I wasn't ready. And these, I say, don't have to go in yet, but I'm going to stick them both in now because it's just easier. Is it wrong to say I just want to take the easy way out and get them growing? What I have been doing with both the Red Duke of York and the Maris Piper is I have been chitting them for the last 3-4 weeks. They've been chitting on my windowsill for quite a while. And what chitting is, basically leave them in a light, airy place. Best way to do it is pop them in an egg box with the chits, which are these bits, just facing upwards. So yeah, just pop them in an egg box, an empty egg carton, and what you're looking for is for these here, these little chits, to start sprouting. Because if you can get them to start sprouting, then they've got a head start when they go in the ground, and hopefully they'll get going that bit quicker. And yeah, it's just beneficial to be able to do that. So mine have chitted okay. There's been years when I've had much better chits than this, but I'm happy with them, and we're going to get these ones in. I've only brought 3 up today because I knew I only had the 2 containers, or rather I bought 3 Red Duke of York and I bought 3 Maris Piper. These containers recommend 3 per container, so I bought 3 of each variety, and I'm going to pot them up and see how they go. So first things first, I'm going to get some compost in the bottom of these containers. I'm probably going to put in about that much, what's that, about 4 inches of compost in the bottom to start with, in each one. Right, what I've done now is I've got compost up to about there in them both. And what I'm going to do now is add in a little bit of chicken manure and a little bit of my fertiliser and mix that all in, just to give it a bit more food and a bit more nutrients. I got this multi-purpose compost from Lidl, actually. So I don't know how good it's going to be. I don't like to automatically criticise the places that are cheaper and say that's going to be rubbish, because that's not the case at all. Sometimes you can get some really good stuff from the cheaper places. All I'm saying is I've never used it before, so I don't know if it's going to be good, if it's going to be bad. I just don't know. So to be on the safe side, I'm going to throw in a little bit of chicken manure and a little bit of my 6 times fertiliser, which is meant to be really good. So I'll throw in a little bit of each. Go with about a handful. Sprinkle some in that one, and then I'm going to sprinkle the rest into that one. Then I'm going to add some of this in as well. This is just a natural fibrous fertiliser. I've heard good things about it. I haven't used it before this year myself, so can't give my own opinion, but I've heard good things. So I'm just going to sprinkle a handful into each one. And now I'm just going to mix it all in. Just give it a bit of a mix up in that one, like that. And again, the same for the other one. And now what I'm going to do before I put the potatoes in is I'm going to put another layer of just this normal compost in, probably another 4 inches or so. The reason being, I don't want the potato tubers to directly touch any of the chicken manure or fertiliser. I want them to be sitting above that on another layer of compost. So I'm going to get some more of this in, and then we'll be ready to stick the potatoes in. Right, they're both ready now. I've got them to a level that I'm happy with. It's up to about here. Hopefully you can see that. And now I'm going to get the potatoes in. Right, the first variety that I'm going to plant is the, well actually, Maris Pear. I've read that label wrong the entire time. I thought they were Maris Piper, but they're Maris Pear. Just found that out. It's funny how your eyes, when they expect to read one word, read it automatically, isn't it? But anyway, you want to plant them. Ooh. Just lay them on the top with the chits facing upwards. I'm going to plant them in a sort of triangle like that. They want to be about 6 inches apart. I would say that's about 6 inches apart. And then all I'm going to do is cover them up with some more compost and then water them and wait for them to grow. Hopefully. That's the plan. Right, so that is that. I've got both varieties in here now. This one is the Maris Pear. This one is the Red Duke of York. I haven't brought anything up to label them with. So the only way I'm going to remember it is Red Duke of York here, because when I'm looking at them, that one will be on the left, so that's early, and then go across to the right, which is second early. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's how I'm going to remember it. I'm not sure yet what my opinion of growing them like this is. It seems a bit weird, to be honest. I'm used to putting them in the ground and digging trenches and earthing up and things like that. It's very odd having them just in here. If it works, it works. It works for plenty of people, so I can't see why it wouldn't work for me, but just feels odd to be growing them like this rather than in the ground. I'd rather be growing them in the ground if I had the space. What I'm also going to do is keep an eye on the weather. If we get any cold spells forecast, I'll come up and check them, because if the sprouts have started to come above the soil and you get a cold snap, that's not good. That could kill them off, damage them. So if we do get cold snaps forecast, I'll make sure I come up and earth them up, which basically means popping more soil on top of the shoots that are poking through the compost. I'll be earthing them up as well when the shoots come through. What you want to do is when the shoots sprout through the compost and they start growing through, just keep popping more compost on top because that'll encourage more tubers to develop, encourage more potatoes to grow in the long run. So yeah, in the long run, this will be full right up to the top with compost. So the potatoes will have all that space to grow and form, and then when we get to the top, I shall stop filling it with compost, and then the shoots will hopefully be growing out the top. This is all, of course, if it all goes to plan. And then a few months down the line, hopefully, I'll get some potatoes. It's a bit of an experiment for me as well, in case you can't tell. But that's that. Now I'm going to move on to something that I do know what I'm doing, and that I've done many times before, which is growing my onions. Which is fantastic, because after doing something like this I'm not too sure about, it's nice to move on to something where I know what I'm doing and I know I can get it right. So let's go and have some fun with some onions. Right, so here we are on the onion bed, and what I've done with it just now is I have added a bag of the compost onto this bit here, and I've also thrown in some handfuls of that fertiliser, the fibrous fertiliser that I used in my potatoes as well. And I put it all over here, sort of raked it level, and then I dug it over with the fork. Took out some more weeds that I found, took out a couple of stones, and I've got this to a stage that I'm pretty happy with for planting onions. And I've got 2 sets of onions to plant today. I've got some red ones, which is just the Red Baron. Not particularly exciting. It seems that Red Baron seem to be the ones that are sold everywhere, but they performed well for me in the past. And I picked them up in Morrison's, and it was the only ones that they had. So I was running out of time to get to the garden centre to choose some other ones, so I just went with them. And then I got some white onions as well, the Centurion F1. And I haven't grown this variety before, but there wasn't a lot of choice left in the garden centre when I went the other day. And I had a read and had a look, and then in the end just went with these ones. So I've got 50 of these and 30 of these, which is great because I love onions. I use them in so many different things like curries and salsas and stews. We go through hundreds of onions, so I'm going to try and get as many of these planted as possible. And what I have done, firstly, is I have marked out where I want the onions to go, just using this string here. So I've got a nice string line so that I can grow a nice straight row of onions, because last year everything was wonky. This year I'm going to do it properly with string lines and things like that. And I think I'm going to start with the red onions. And the nice thing about onions is they are so easy to plant. There's no digging, no covering, no mess. All I do with my onions, so I just break them up a bit. So if I start the rows about here, it's a bit of not so well broken up there, but yeah, and literally I just sort of pop it in and push it down. And the onions want to be approximately 5 inches apart. So I'm going to pop another one in about there, push him down, and about here, pop him down. And obviously when planting onions, you always want the pointy end here to be the end that's pointing upwards. Don't plant them upside down with the roots showing, because that won't work. So I'm just going to work my way along this row here now. And they don't need to be deep, the tip still needs to be pointing out of the soil. That for me tends to be about the right sort of depth. You literally are just popping them down and then just pushing them down like that. And you'll find in your packs you will get different sizes. Like there's a prime example. There's one bigger one and one tiny little small one. What I would say is don't automatically just discard the small ones and think they're not going to grow and they're not going to produce such big onions. there's actually research out there that shows that sometimes the smaller ones can actually be more resistant to bolting, which is when an onion sends up a flower stalk too early and stops growing. So you may think initially the big ones, it's like, oh great, I'm going to get some fantastic onions out of them, but sometimes it's the smaller ones that I say can resist the bolting and actually end up growing better. I'm not going to be picky and choosy with my onions because I've got plenty of space to grow all of these red onions, so they're all going to go in and they're going to do however well they do. So I'm going to get on with doing the rest of this row now, and then I'll move on to the next row. Right, that's the first row done now. So all I'm going to do the second row is move this string line along again approximately 6 inches or so. I'm going to have my onions growing fairly close together, so maybe 6 or 8 inches apart, and then I'm going to repeat and come back and do the other row. The one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plant them slightly off from where these ones are planted. So if I've got one here and one here, on this row I'm going to just start there. So they're going to be slightly off, so they're not directly next to each other, just to give them that little bit more space. There we go, and it is literally as easy as that with planting onions. I've got about 3 left in there, so I'm not going to start another row just for the sake of 3. I might find somewhere to pop them in later, but for now I'm going to have 2 rows of red onions, and then I'm going to plant up those white onions, and then that'll be the onion bed done. Fantastic. Good. Right, that's all the white ones in now. I've got space for 2 more at the end, so I'm just going to find these red ones that I said I'd find somewhere to stick in. I'm not fussy. We'll put 2 more red ones just down here at the end. Right, so that one is a bit rotten, so I'm going to chuck it in there. Right, so that is the onion bed. So I've got close on 80 onions in there, 50 of the white ones and 30 of the red ones. And I'm going to come back in a couple of days and just check that the birds haven't pulled any of these out, or that, you know, birds, or they haven't been dug out by foxes or animals. If any of them have been pulled out and I find them, say, lying on their side on the soil, all I'm going to do is just pop them back in like that. It's that easy. So yeah, just going to keep a check on them, and I'm hoping that they'll start to sprout and I shall finally be growing something in this allotment again, because that's what I want. So that's about it for today's video. We've done potatoes, we've done onions, we've done a little plot update. The next video I shall probably be sowing some lettuce, spinach, perhaps building a bean frame. I need to build a bean frame for the runner beans that will be going in shortly, and that needs to be built before the beans are sowed, because if you build it after they've been sowed, you can interfere with the roots and damage them. So yeah, possibly building a bean frame next time, and some more sowing. For now, what I'm going to do is stay up here a little bit. So it's Easter Sunday, but it's lovely and peaceful up here, and it's not too cold, so I'm going to enjoy my day off doing a few more bits and bobs up the allotment. And if you'd like my video, I'd be really grateful if you could like or subscribe. I'm just amazed at how many people have already liked and subscribed my videos. It really actually means a lot to me. Close to 500 subscribers now, which I didn't think I'd get anywhere close to that at all. And I know it's only a small number in the grand scheme of things, but it means a lot to me. So yeah, if you do like what I do, then liking and subscribing would be great. That's about it for today. Yeah, I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my Easter Sunday. I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.